I want you guys to give it up right now for this guy, Justice Carpenter. You guys, you came on the right week because Justice is going to share his testimony today. And And so I just want to, I got to say, a couple of years back, we gave him like an honorary summer staff card. And then I saw an application from him this year, and I was like, "Are you ready to serve?" He was like, "Yes." And so I was like, "Let's go, let's do it." And so he's here, and him and I we have what we call ice cream time together, which is like summer staff, weekly one-on-one time, and we eat ice cream actually. And so I just love getting to spend time with him. I look forward to even later this morning we get to do some forklifting together, which is incredible. And so I'm going to just pray for him and let him share with you guys. But Lord, I just want to thank you so much for your power and your goodness in our lives. Lord, we don't understand your ways, but one thing we know is that you're good. And so we thank you for Justice, who is living proof of your goodness. And I just pray that his words and his story would just be full of your presence, and that we would hear it, receive it, and be changed by it. And we love you, Lord. And that scripture, like that none of the words of the Lord would fall to the ground, but that we would receive them. And so I just pray for him as he shares, that you would just calm his nerves and help him to be excited about what you've done in his life and his family too. In your name, amen. Amen. Okay, buddy, take it away. You want to tell him about this?
Oh, yes. So I will not be sharing my full story, but I do have paper copies of most of my story in chronological order, just so you guys can follow along and know a little more. And also, I do not have a slideshow, but if you want to see pictures and stuff when I was back having surgeries and whatever, please come up to me between now and the time you guys leave. Alrighty, my name is Justice Carpenter, and I was born with cerebral palsy, and that is a condition that is different for everybody, but for me it affects my right arm and both of my legs, and sometimes I feel like my wheelchair feels like a cover of a book that you have to open up and learn more about me, because I'm more than just sitting in a wheelchair. Like, I can do a lot more than just sit in a wheelchair. Doctors told me when I was 6 years old I would never be able to walk independently. And so my mom was like, "No, that is not happening." And so we were living in Washington State at the time, and they said no. So we actually came down to Stanford Children's Hospital in Stanford, or I forget where it is, Palo Alto, and we did what is called a gait lab analysis, which is where they turn my walking into a computer simulation, so doctors can see how I walk. It's actually kind of fun to do. It's a several-hour event, and they put these little balls on me, and when you take a picture with flash, it looks like I have Christmas lights on. And I did it when I was 6 years old, and the Stanford doctors said that after they do that, they have a roundtable discussion. And so the Stanford doctor said no. My doctor back in Seattle said no. And my mom was like, "I'm not giving up hope." And so she found a doctor in St. Louis named Dr. Parks. at St. Louis Children's Hospital, and he is actually the perfecter of the surgery called dorsal and so when I was 6 years old, they had, or when I was six, I'm backing up for a second. When I was 6 years old, I also had seizures that were very, like once a month, I would throw up for like a long time, couple days. And so, and those are terminal. I was terminal at the time.
Put this here in case you need it.
Alrighty, thank you. I basically, they had me, I had seizures all the time. And when my parents, I was in the hospital for a week at one point because we were trying to figure out where the seizures were coming from. So I was hooked up to all sorts of wires and stuff. I wasn't even allowed to leave the hospital room for a whole entire week because I had all these wires hooked up. And what we found when I was in that hospital room, that I was literally on the ground, 6 years old, playing with toys, and I just looked away like I wasn't interested, and the seizure alarm went off. And they found out whenever I wasn't interested in something, I had seizures, and that was happening thousands of times a day. And so when I was 6 years old, I had a 12-hour surgery. They separated the two halves of my brain, and I only utilized one half of my brain. I only have one half of my brain, actually. And that surgery and the dorsal have never been done on one patient before. So that's why they wanted to wait 2 years, because I was 8 years old. And when I had the dorsal and that brain surgery was 12 hours. So imagine a mom sitting in a waiting room for 12 hours while their 6-year-old is having surgery. And then the doctor comes and talks to my parents, and then pulls out says, "Hey, do you guys like pictures?" And pulls out a picture of my live brain, blood and everything. And my dad was frightened, and my mom was very interested. And it just was so impactful, because after that surgery, or after the brain surgery, they wanted to wait a little while before the dorsal. So I had to fly to St. Louis to get the dorsal done. And that doctor did that surgery, I can't tell you how many times. He sadly passed away a couple months ago, but I would say if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am today. And 5 other people in the town I lived in got that surgery because they saw how it worked for me. And when I was doing the dorsal afterwards, when I flew back, I didn't go home right away. I went directly to Seattle Children's Hospital because my therapist was gone at the time. For 7 days a week, I had to have physical therapy, and then for a month. And then 1 day of physical therapy is hard. Just think about 7. And then while I was there, my dad and friends and family were turning a room back at our house into a therapy room, because I was going to need therapy 5 days a week for a year. And that seriously changed our lives. And it was amazing to me how much that changed my life. And I set a goal by the end of the summer of 2011, I believe, I would walk 80 steps by the end of the summer. And so whenever I would start walking, my parents would take a video. And one summer day, I was at my cousin's baseball game. The college level. I just took off and walked 80 steps. And there was friends and family in the crowd, and they just started erupting. And I found out later that nothing happened on the baseball field, so they were like, what the heck is happening? Like, they had no idea that a little kid who was, doctor said would never be able to walk, just walked 80 steps. And I got baptized by a pastor in 2013. I was 9 years old after I was able to walk. I felt like I was close to the Lord, but not very much. But when I was, so skipping a few years to, in high school, I was afraid to do sports and stuff. And when I was in senior year, one of the teachers that I had took a different position. And when she took a different position, a different teacher came in. And that teacher was one of the coaches for the swim team. And so at the next high school dance, I was talking to her husband, which was also one of the swim coaches, and swimming was starting the next Monday. And so we were just talking about swimming, and I literally told my parents at 10 o'clock at night, or told my dad at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday with something that was started on Monday, hey, I want to join swim team. And he's like, that came out of left field. And they said, it doesn't matter if you need to have a life jacket on, you can be on the swim team. And I swam my hardest. Maybe in finals got last place, whatever. It doesn't matter what score you get. It's matter that you tried your best. And when in 2021 was my first time coming to Gleanings as a volunteer, I had no idea what this place was. I had no idea. And I saw the dried fruit, and I'm like, oh, I'll stay on dried fruit the whole entire week. And so that's what I did, because I didn't think I could do anything else. And then the next summer, I came here, and this was the next summer in 2022. I got way closer to the Lord that summer. The dried fruit line got shut down halfway through the week because there was no dried fruit because of the week before. And so I'm like, well, shoot. I'm going to have to do something else. I did inspection. Maybe I broke the rules and had a peach fight. And that was one of the times I realized, hey, I can do more than I think I can do. And then I said, hey, I want to do cup up, but I can't stand the whole entire time. And one of my friends on summer staff, he said, hey, walk around with me. And we walked around through the forklifting area, and I did cup up in my wheelchair. And it's just amazing to me that anything is possible here. And that summer also, my youth leaders wanted to go up the hill, not driving, walking up the hill. And they wanted me to come too, and they knew it was going to be rough. And we were walking up the middle of the field road, and I started singing, "This is how I fight my battles." And my youth leader, we stopped for a second, and he got that song up on his phone, and we just started singing that song up the hill. And it was just so we didn't make it very far, but point is, we made it and we were able to do what we wanted to do.
Right.
And maybe the other group went farther, but who cares? Like, we're doing what is the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And that summer, I got the summer staff thing, as Andy said, and it was just so powerful. Then later that summer, I went to Puerto Rico on a mission trip, and we left at 6 a.m. in the morning, and we got there at 2 a.m. the next morning. We were on the plane for 10 hours, the first plane for 10 hours, and then because there was an electrical storm where we were landing in Newark, New Jersey. And so we got there at 2 a.m. in the morning, got the rules that you needed to know that night, went to bed, woke up at 10 a.m., had breakfast, and then our leader there said, like, it's kind of like a base like this, but way smaller. And it's not a YWAM base. I forget the name of it right this second. But I was there, and they're like, hey, we want to go hike up to a cave that we found a couple weeks ago or whatever. And they're like, Justice, we'll make sure, we'll do whatever you need to do to get up there also. And so we get to this first hill. It is not wheelchair accessible whatsoever at all. Keep that in mind for that hill, because something happened later in the week. And so we hike up to the cave. Do you guys remember the story of the crippled man in the Bible where the four men carry him up to the top of the roof and then break the roof open and lower him in? Just imagine that with me into a cave. And we used a strap, like a tie down strap to lower me in. It was kind of cool. I was only in there for a couple of minutes, but it was really cool that they weren't going to let that stop me. And I love sharing that Bible story because it really did feel like that, honestly. And then that day, I found out later that the guy ordered, where that hill leads, that first hill leads to, is where they do worship and stuff up on the hill. They do their Bible, their youth group Bible studies and stuff there usually. So the guy ordered 6 truckloads of base rock, or what we would consider base rock here in the lower 48 states, and kept it a surprise until the Sunday, or until it was good on Thursday, because we went up there on Thursday night, and then on Sunday it was perfect. We still got my wheelchair up there. It wasn't completely accessible, but it was way more accessible than it would have been the first day. And that Sunday night, our leader said, we had a fire going. There was a church sermon. Oh, also on that Thursday night, the person asked, hey, can I share the story about that cave stuff? It was the first sermon that I heard in Spanish and English at the same time. It was kind of impressive, but it was all about me and going up that hill. And one of the people also carried my wheelchair up that hill. Even though I don't know why we did that, because that was a little dumb, but you learn. And then that week, or that Sunday, we basically had a fire time just with our group, and he said, I would love to do an altar call. And he said, God if they were supposed to put a log on the fire and they didn't, I don't want them to sleep tonight. And let me tell you, I was scared to death of not sleeping that night because we were going home the next day and our flight wasn't until 1 a.m. in the morning the following day. And so so I led, I don't know how many people. I was the first one who put a log on the fire, and I barely remember why I got up. God just was like, alrighty, Justice, you're gonna put a log on the fire. And then our leader went back to his house, and he got a text message saying, hey, Justice just put a log on the fire. And he's like, what the heck? This was after the fact I heard this. And we just were praising the Lord. It was the closest I felt to the Lord ever. It was just we were singing worship songs. I don't know. We were up until midnight. I don't know what happened. But then the next day we got baptized. And I felt like that was the time I got rededicated to the Lord. And basically, that's when I felt like God was saying, hey, you're going to follow me now for the rest of your life. And I felt like that was my rededication. And I felt like I've been close to the Lord since. And then Gleanings wanted me, and they wanted me that summer. And you can only really pick one. And guess who got me? And when I did that, I knew when summer staff wanted me here, I'm like, there's no way I could do that independently. I relied on my parents so much. So after high school, I had no idea what was next. I got denied from a program that would help me learn how to live independently. But they were so nice. They were like, hey, we would like you, if you want to, you can come do this interview training 4-week program in LA, in the Cal State LA dorms. And so I did that. Then, because I got denied from a place called Hatland, which is it's a dorm or it's a apartment living, you cook and clean all by yourself, but they teach you how to do that. But there's also another program called Davidson Program for Independence, or DPI. And so I went in LA, it's in a dorm at the Wayfinder Family Services property. And I did that for 7 months. I was afraid to take city buses when I showed up there. In high school, my mom wanted me to take a city bus in high school or in my junior year. I told her no stinking way. But a couple years later, that was the only way to get around in LA easily. So I had to learn how to ride the city bus. And I'm like, alrighty, this is going to be interesting, but here we go. It took me 4 months to remember the street that we lived, that was our closest bus stop. It's now Slauson and LV, so I remember it, on the 108 bus route. And I learned how to cook, learned Braille, because I'm visually impaired. Also, I have 20/60 vision. Almost full. I'm right on the edge of being visually impaired, but I am visually impaired. Doctors can't even explain my vision sometimes, so there you go. And then I did that for 7 months. I completely changed as a person. I could cook, I could use a computer very well. I learned how to get around. When I got back I left that program so I could have a chance at going to that program that I got denied from, because they then accepted me. And so I went home. I thought it was going to only be 2 weeks, but I went home for a month and a half. And when I went home for that month and a half, I actually took the city bus by myself in Santa Cruz for the first time. And that was actually amazing to me that I was able to do that. And then when I did that, Hatland is in San Pablo, which is like between our house in San Francisco. And I took Bart and the city bus home. It took me 4 hours one day while I was at the Hatland program, but I did it. And that's what mattered. And then after that, I'm going to college for mechatronics engineering, robotics. And my goal is to make more stuff more accessible. Like, I'm hoping in a year or two that these doors right over here are automatic. And because when you make doors automatic, it's not just helpful for wheelchair users, it's helpful for strollers, rolling carts, which there's a lot of around here. And when I applied for summer, my mom was like earlier this year, hey, what are you going to do this summer? She didn't want me to stay home and do nothing. And she says, how about Gleanings? And I'm like, oh, right. It took me a little while to think about it, but I needed something to do. And I applied, and a week later, I got a text message from Andy saying, hey, when can you call? And he called me, and I can't tell you how happy I was. I literally cried in happiness. And one thing I was worried about is, how is forklifting gonna go? Because I've only driven a car 16 miles in my whole entire life. And so I'm like, how is forklifting gonna go? So the first week, he's like, hey, how about we start you in a golf cart? And so golf cart lesson turned into making lemonade. That's the funny thing about Andy is one thing might lead to another. And so I was driving the golf cart because it's a lemon tree farm right behind us, or lemon trees right behind our property here. And and after that lemonade trip, he said, hey, how about you take the golf cart out by yourself? No joke. See that wall out there? I backed up, turned around, and while Andy was still right there, I maybe ran into that wall. And he was just so confident and was just like didn't get mad. And it was his golf cart, by the way, too. And he just led me getting out of that situation. And then the next week, he told he did some training with me on the forklift. And then last week, I had my first shift actually on the forklift doing drive-through. And that, I maybe went 3 times faster than I should have gone, but oh well. And right after this, I will be I will be driving the forklift again. And I'm just so grateful for that because I had no idea what was going to happen this summer, and I'm thankful to be here. Thank you.
All right.